Got to get my picture on there. Okay, Brett, this is for you. I've got my friends here, the Fishers, Greg and Sean. He's from New York. She's from Minnesota. So they are my audience, and you are right now. And I'm starting this off with a great philosopher from the last century, the famous Dr. Seuss. Oh, the places you'll go, he says. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You're on your own. You know what you know. And you are the guy or girl who will decide where to go. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain or Chesapeake Bay, we've got a beautiful view of the Catawba River and Hickory Bay over here that I'm looking at, the lake. And so your mountain is waiting, your bay is waiting, so get on your way. This is how I'll start off my presentation. Then I'll introduce myself on the boat. So let me just take it from here. I'm Joel Hollingsworth. I'm a retired high school history teacher, which I'm not bragging on, but I'm also now a semi-retired substitute teacher, kindergarten through early college in our school system, which is only one high school, 2 middle schools, and 7 elementary schools, but I'm in elementary all the time. And Dr. Seuss is very famous now in schools. They have some of these writings right here, actually on the wall in the elementary school where my grandkids go. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way. So I started with that. I'm originally myself from Florida, live in North Carolina now, small country town. And this week, I'm very happy to be communicating with adults because I'm usually with kids. And, you know, kindergarten, first, second grade is a lot of fun, but they're not processing anything. They just want to interrupt you and tell you something. In high school, we won't go there and talk about them. My next slide is, existence is a fact, living is an art. I saw this and thought it was very, very beautiful. I call living a fine art. And I expect this week on the Chesapeake Bay to be some unbelievable living for the people here that are on the boat. Just like it was for me the last time I was on the boat. I have a quote here from James Michener in his book, The Chesapeake, where he said, the Chesapeake Bay is like a beautiful woman. So my question is, what is a beautiful woman like? Well, beautiful women and all women like to be loved and adored and taken very good care of. They like to be played with and teased and have a lot of fun with. I'm making this stuff up. She likes to be talked to and talked about. And so this week, we're talking about the Chesapeake Bay, like a fine woman. We will experience this week on this cruise the beautiful, the magnificent, the majestic, the amazingly engaging phenomena of nature called the Chesapeake Bay. The locals just call it the Bay, but it's more dignified than that. I call it the Chesapeake Bay, which I had never been on. First time in my life when my wife and I took a cruise on American Cruise Lines on this bay, and I couldn't believe it. I was absolutely blown away. I loved it so much. I said, I got to come back here. And so, as you know, I applied for this job, and I'm going to be back on the most special week of the year. It's the cherry blossom week, and we'll also go up to Washington, D.C., which I didn't do on my cruise, but we'll see Mount Vernon and Alexandria, the Washington estate, I'm telling you. And maybe I'm recruiting you guys to come on a cruise. Hey, I might have us a couple of passengers here, Brett. So anyway, ACL, it's your turn now. American Cruise Lines wants you to have the experience of a lifetime, just like I did on this boat a year and a half ago. I love it, and I'll be your escort if I'm the guest speaker on the boat with you, Cope. So you can look forward to that. My next slide is Washington, D.C. I'm a little late starting that one. I thought that was such a beautiful picture. You find so many pictures on the internet now that are so absolutely gorgeous. I hope it's not raining when we get there, and I hope we got the perfect week, which is the Easter week. I mean, what a wonderful time. When my wife and I were on the cruise, I made a scrapbook of everything I saw and did, my receipts and everything else, and I've got it at home. And then, I found out there's a possibility I could come back, so I'll be adding to that scrapbook. The estuary system, okay? Do you know, this is geology class, or ecology class. Do you know what a phenomena the Chesapeake Bay is as far as an estuary? It's the largest estuary in America, third largest in the world. If you can see that picture right there, it actually is a drained basin of 65,000 square miles. Water runs down from New York through Pennsylvania into the Chesapeake, from West Virginia through Virginia into the Bay, from Delaware through Maryland, and of course down the Potomac River from Washington, D.C. And what will really blow your mind is there are 150 rivers and streams that flow into the Chesapeake Bay. An estuary is a body of water near the coast that has at least a river or stream flowing into it before it goes out into the ocean. The Chesapeake Bay is obviously a phenom in itself. From top to bottom, north to south, it's over 200 miles. What other statistics do I have? 12,000 miles of shorefront. If you include the river fronts, not all the streams, but the river fronts, the islands in it, 12,000 square miles of shorefront. This is just a phenomenal body of water. And it's fresh water near the streams and near the north, and salt water down below. That's very, very important, especially for the taste of the oysters that you get out of the Chesapeake Bay. And I love oysters, and I'm ready to try some. I was there in October and it wasn't oyster season, so I didn't get any on my last cruise. Anyway, my next picture is, and this you can definitely get excited about, seafood. Seafood on the Chesapeake. You got crab, shrimp, oysters, clams back there. So the point I want to make here is that this is the time of year when they say the return of the fleet comes back in the Chesapeake Bay. And you know who the fleet is? That's the tourists and the vacationers, the boating, sailing, yachting. All the people come back to enjoy this beautiful woman of the Chesapeake Bay. Maybe that's not the appropriate way to say that. But we will be here, and all the nature watchers are here, of course. The food is here, but you won't find any better food, of course, than on the cruise ship. I mean, the food was just unbelievable last time. I loved it. As far as the sports and recreation, we've got a lady here catching a striped bass. This is the famous fish from the Chesapeake Bay, striped bass. And I put this other little picture down here in the bottom. I don't think you can see it, Brett, because of my head. But it's a nice picture of the ecology. It shows the shore. You got a deer there and a fox running. You got waterfowl flying overhead. You got a beaver coming up out of the water, under the water. You've got a nice big fish, probably a striped bass. You got oysters. You got a crab. And the really important thing about the Chesapeake is it is a focus for the universities around the area, Maryland and Virginia in particular. They want to protect this woman. They want to protect this bay. They want to keep it as pure and clean. And since 85, they have increased the quality of the water. I did a lot of research on this. And they actually have, I wrote it down here, 1,800 municipalities, counties, on the waterways, the streams and rivers that flow into it, that are responsible for limiting, of course, the contaminants that could get in the water that would end up flowing into the Chesapeake Bay. So they're trying to take care of the bay like they should, of course, which is a wonderful thing. Yeah, there's a lot of programs, science centers and things like that are really focused on that, and I wanted to make a point of that. Our next slide is our first stop when we were on the boat, and that was St. Michael's. Let me tell you, beautiful, historic, friendly people. Of course, they're going to be friendly to the tourists, but I walked all over the little town there, and it's got the oldest church. It's called St. Michael's Church from 1600s that was built right there on the, near the shore in the little town. And I like to look at the cemeteries because you can read the names of the people that were buried there in 1600 and something. Anyway, James Michener lived in St. Michael's when he did the research for his book that he wrote, The Chesapeake, in the South Winds hotel that was right there. Of course, they also have the lighthouse. They have the Maritime Museum. I spent a couple of hours. It gives you the history of all the shipbuilding, which everything back in the day was sail ships, of course. Your skipjacks, your bug eyes, they called it, your dugout canoes, your schooners, everything had to have sails because they didn't have engines. So you can see the whole history of that, and they talk about industry, especially the oysters, which are really a famous and very nutritious source of food. I can't tell you everything, but anyway, that's a good thing. The first stop there, and I think all of the stops that the cruise line will make, which I think in our cruise should be Oxford, Cambridge, of course, Annapolis, we're going on down to Norfolk, will be, just so nice to go walking. You can go on your own. They do have tours and excursions, to special places and this and that, which many of you, are planning to go on. But I loved every one of these little towns. And I started looking because I heard about a book called The Beautiful Swimmer. Can you imagine what that might be? The Beautiful Swimmer. They said there's a Pulitzer Prize book that's written about the crabs in the Chesapeake Bay. I said, you're kidding me. I said, I'll go ahead and, try to find this book. When I was walking around St. Michael's, I was looking for it. I went to the Preppy Redneck, was the souvenir shop, which is a great place. They got everything. They didn't have the book. And she said, well, they probably have it at the gift shop back at the dock. I said, oh, yeah, I should have thought of that. But you need, and this is what I want to advise you, you need to be thinking of something that you want to buy, a souvenir for somebody somewhere, so that it'll get you off the boat and you'll go looking everywhere. I decided I wanted a T-shirt with a big sailboat on it, So I looked all over the whole week, and I saw one in a shop in the window, and the shop was closed, and I couldn't even buy it, But I saw one in another gift shop down in Cambridge, a picture. It's actually a photograph on the wall, and it's hanging on my wall in my house now. These are skipjacks. These are famous sailing craft, used for oystering, getting oysters off the bottom, dragging the bottom. We went out on a skipjack, the Nathan, while we were on the bay, and it was just unbelievable. I enjoyed that so much. Anyway, so the story of this is it was very expensive. And so, of course, I didn't buy it when I was in Cambridge. But when I got back home, my daughter asked me, did y'all see something that you might want? I said, I did. I saw a picture because I didn't find the T-shirt the rest of the week, And she said, well, us kids will get it for you for Christmas. So that's why it's hanging on our wall. And when she bought that, they sent the picture of the crab for free. That was just a bonus for buying the photo.